Hi and welcome to another trade review. Today we're going to be going over the NAS trade that I took yesterday afternoon. This was a mean reversion play that I've been working on for a while now. So I'm going to talk you through the process of how I analyzed it, what I was looking at, what I was looking for, and then how I've managed it, and then what I can look to have probably done a little bit better as I build confidence with these ideas. So the play comes from looking at the NASDAQ and trying to identify levels where we're going to be overextended and then looking to take it back towards a mean of some sort. So you can see here on the hourly, it starts with this sort of box over the last sort of 2 weeks. This was the level that I was looking for us to probe underneath. This was the level at 138. From 2 weeks ago. This is the low, a bit of a swing low. So I was expecting a bit of a move down into this, and then I was looking for a move either off this level or then back up in towards it as a breakout, and then maybe looking for a potential retest, etc. So risk reward was going to be a significant factor on that play moving back up. But as you can see, we've got yesterday, we moved down into this with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hourly bars but closing bearish in a row. So I collect a lot of statistics on how many consecutive candles we can expect in a row, what's the probabilities of things turning around should that occur, etc. And also how far we move during specific periods of time. So I know here that on the rate of change, which is the indicator that I use mostly to determine this, is that we've moved over 1% in 3 hours. And for me, that doesn't happen that often. It's in the sort of the top 10 percentile, or it's around about the top 5 percentile of moves on the NASDAQ. So I know that we've had a pretty explosive move to the downside, taking out previous liquidity here. If we've got people who are long and they've got stops from underneath this 2 weeks ago, that's now been taken out. So I'm now looking for a way to get in. I've had what I was looking for happen. We've taken out the level, but now I need some sort of indication to get into a trade. So I drop down onto the 2-minute time frame, and you can see here that we hold the 8. So we've got the 8 and 21 EMA. The 8 is the yellow, red is the 21. And from about 12:40, 12:30 here, you can see that we're in a downshift, all the way downshift, downshift, downshift. This is where we open. So we open and we take out that sort of level. It doesn't really give us too much support at that level of interest. And then we continue down, 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 down. And what I'm looking for now is a bit of a change in momentum and some stalling at the bottom. So you can see here we've got this even rate of change, on the 2-minute time frame is overextended. We're moving 0.23% in 3 or 4 candles on the 2-minute, and this is based on the 15-minute time frame of a top 10th percentile move. So these are moves that are happening pretty quickly to the downside. But you can see then we start to get this sudden slowing. And it's like the stepping down. I always describe it as stepping down. So you can see from the open we have a one big shove, pull back, shove down, and then we're not pulling back as quick. So the sellers aren't taking control, and buyers are slowly but surely winning this battle. And you can see this starts to happen here in a little bit more detail. Let me just put on anchored VWAP from the day, as this was part of my analysis. So here, this was anchored VWAP from the start, changeover of date, and this was going to be my target here, which you can see gave me around about 2.5 R. So we get the upshift on the 2-minute. This is my indicator that we're now starting to potentially see a little bit of bullish momentum. We're still making lower highs, yes, but we've stopped making lower lows. So when we get the pullback in towards this level here, the first sort of change of sort of structure, we take out the previous sort of highs here, we pull back into this level. I take my entry, and I've got a very clear stop loss at this point. My stop is at low of day, and if we hit that, I'm okay. And I'm saying, look, my idea is completely invalidated. I no longer want to be in the trade. But what I'm looking for is risk reward. And you can see if this goes and takes me out, I lose 1 R. If we go up towards this anchored VWAP, I've got 2.4 R, 2.5 R. So I'm looking for risk reward in my favor. We're pretty low. We've had a lot of selling pressure. How much further can this continue to fall without any major sort of news catalyst, etc.? that can pull this back. So when we see some bullish momentum, I take my entry and I'm looking for just a movement back in. I get to 1R, which is, I get at 1.5R, I have that level that we were looking at previously on the higher time frame that we'd probed underneath. You can see, as I mentioned, at the open, we were right at the level of interest. So on the 2-minute time frame, that was around about here. So you can see I've got 1R, 1.5R to that level. I took some profit around 1R. And I then let this trade run, and I got fully out at around about 2.5R a little bit later on, back as we moved back to VWAP, as I found that this was going to potentially be an area of resistance again. So that was my trade that I took. How could I have managed it better? I think from a management perspective, I could have managed it better by holding until we get the shift down. So I would have got a little bit more out of this trade. You can see once we've got this big shift and the move actually started to occur, this shift held for quite a bit longer, so I could have held that. The other thing that I could have done is potentially have looked to either have added as we break out of this level here and we start to move back up, or in hindsight, this is probably the better option or the safer entry, but then this is all becomes about timing and hindsight. So when I'm reviewing this, I'm looking at what was the best or the entry that gave me the least friction. Because this could have quite easily have snapped back here, and I'd have got in. I'd have missed that trade by waiting for it. So I took this trade here, but I have to go through probably half an hour, 40 minutes of chop to the down to the sideways or sideways movement really. But we're still making higher lows, which is the important thing. So I held into this trade. My idea is not completely invalidated at this point. So we hold that and we managed to capture this move. Then, like I say, the other ways that I can improve was probably looking to hold a piece for longer. At this point, we've not even touched the 21 on as we start to get to 1R. So maybe I could have looked to say, look, as once we close underneath the 21 EMA after the move started, I could look to hold a little bit longer and I could have eked out maybe a half an hour more or so. So this was my NASDAQ trade. Starting from the higher time frames, I'd identified the level that I was looking for, overextended on the rate of change on the 15-minute and on the hourly, and then combining some of the techniques that I've learned from ASFX by using the A2 and EMA shifts to make me have a very systematic entry that I can repeat over and over again. So that was my sort of trade recap over NAS. Hopefully you'll be seeing more of these as we move forward, and I look to push myself into trading the indices more and more over the rest of the year.